Everyone. I am Sue Farnlocker. My pronouns, I'm happy to serve this congregation as a member of your Board of Trustees and a member of the Worship Committee. My pronouns are she, her, they. Welcome to First UU for the last of our summer service series. Today, we invite you to listen to this service filled with poems, old and new, and original poems written by these three talented long-term members of the congregation. And I want to first of all, I want to acknowledge my husband, Tom Barlow, for his advice, creative input, and support for this service. And thank you to Barb Fisher, whose contribution of flowers directly from her garden are up there, so thank you, Barb. And whether you're joining us online or in person, and whether you are a new face or familiar one, we're glad you're here. If this is your first visit, please stop by the welcome table out in the gallery for your first-time visitor gift. And everyone is invited to scan the QR code, and you better do it because it doesn't appear after this, I don't think. So if you want to get the order of worship, check in, it's up there, so take a picture. And and you can find it, fill in your order. The order of worship is up there if you're online. So, announcements. As you can see by our announcement slide, there. Thank you, Jim. We're about to start an exciting new church year. Choir rehearsals start again. Hint, hint. Today is the final day of in-person voting. If you have an absentee ballot to return, that needs to be postmarked by Monday or returned to your County Board of Elections drop box by 7:30 this Tuesday. If you're voting Tuesday, please double check your polling location because some have changed. If you have any questions, visit the Justice Action Ministry or Jam table after the service in Beach Fellowship Hall. And the big announcement today is that the Reverend Teresa Cooley is in the room. If you'd like to learn more about us, join our mailing list, receive weekly updates and announcements, please fill out the connection card at the visitor's stand or online under the Connections tab on our website's menu. And we now invite any children who want to help bring in the light to meet staff Gus out in the gallery while Nathan plays this morning's prelude. Thank you.
Now is the time to submit your joys and sorrows. You can use the QR code available on your order of service throughout the service or fill out a paper form in the box on the Joys and Sorrows candle table back in this corner. Anything we receive by the end of Time for All Ages will be shared later during the caring meditation. And our children are bringing in the light. Good morning. I am Reverend Kelly McNeil, and it is my honor to serve this congregation as your minister of congregational life. And for anyone who may be visiting with us, it is exciting for us to have Reverend Teresa here. She is our new minister who just started this past week, so that is why we are excited that she is here this morning. Our chalice lighting words come from Eric A. Heller Wagner. Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, the fire of community, the fire of justice, the fire of faith. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life.
Thank you, Harriet, for your help lighting our chalice. Good morning. I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, they. Today's story is called This is a Poem That Heals Fish, written by Jean-Pierre Simeon, illustrated by Olivier Talic, and translated by Claudia Zoe Bedrick. Mommy, my fish is going to die. Come quickly. Leon is going to die of boredom. Arthur's mommy looks at him. She closes her eyes, opens her eyes, then she smiles. Hurry, give him a poem. And she leaves for her tuba lesson. A poem? But what is a poem? Arthur goes to look in the kitchen cabinet. Is there a poem in there? No poem, the noodles sigh in reply. Arthur rummages around among the cleaning supplies. No poem here, sniffles the saggy rag, which is always damp and cold. Arthur looks under his parents' bed. Nope, no poem, not even a broom to push away the dust balls. Determined, Arthur continues his search. He runs to Lolo's bicycle shop. Lolo knows everything, laughs all the time, and is always in love. He is repairing a tire and singing. A poem, Arthur, is when you are in love and have the sky in your mouth. Oh? Okay. Arthur goes to see his friend, Mrs. Round, the baker. She sells a loaf of bread and 3 rolls to Ms. Point. A poem? I don't know much about that, but I know one, and it is hot like fresh bread. When you eat it, a little is always left over. Oh? Okay. Arthur asks old Mahmoud, who comes from the desert and waters his rhododendrons every morning at 9 o'clock. And Mahmoud replies, without hesitation, a poem is when you hear the heartbeat of a stone. Oh? All right. The heartbeat? Oh no, poor Leon. Arthur rushes home. His fish appears to be asleep. He is floating gently amidst the seaweed as if thinking. Arthur goes straight to the other end of the house to question his canary, Aristophanes, who is no bird brain. Puffing himself up, Aristophanes chirps, a poem is when words beat their wings. It is a song sung in a cage. Oh, okay. Then Grandma arrives in her new car with her dog and 3 jars of jam. Grandma, what is a poem? She thinks hard, which is obvious because she always smiles a silly smile when thinking. When you put your old sweater on, backwards or inside out, dear Arthur, you might say that it is new again. A poem turns words around, upside down, and suddenly the world is new. Oh, okay. But ask your grandpa. He often writes poems instead of repairing the pipes. A poem, Grandpa says, tugging on his mustache and looking worried. A poem, well, it's what poets make. Oh, all right. Even if the poets do not know it themselves. Agitated, Arthur goes back to look at his beloved fish. Leon sleeps soundly beneath a large stone, half hidden by the seaweed. I'm sorry, Leon, I have not found a poem. All I know is that a poem is when you have the sky in your mouth. It is hot like fresh bread. When you eat it, a little is always left over. A poem is when you hear the heartbeat of a stone, when words beat their wings. It is a song sung in a cage. A poem is words turned upside down, and suddenly the world is new. Leon opens one eye, then the other, and for the first time in his life, he speaks. Then I am a poet, Arthur. Oh? And my poem is my silence. I see. This is not a fish that heals poems. The end. Today, as we invite you to listen to poetry and take the inspiration you need, just as Arthur sought a poem to help Leon, his pet fish, to feel better. I now invite the congregation to form a sheltering arc of love and sing our young people back to their families and out to class.
Fiorini, and my pronouns are she, her. You can't hear? Oh. Is that better? Okay. Hi. I'm Barb Fiorini. My pronouns are she, her. I'm going to just read a quote by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who was a Jungian psychoanalyst and who is well known for her bestseller called Women, who run with the wolves. There's a reason poets often say, "Poetry saved my life," for often the blank page is the only one listening to the soul's suffering, the only one registering the story completely, the only one receiving all softly and without condemnation.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Lucky. I am a long-term member of this church, almost as long as Sue Ann, I think. I am a musician, and my pronouns are she, her. And Mary Oliver is one of my all-time favorite poets. And this poem of hers, I think, is perfect for this moment in our service. It's called, "I Happened to Be Standing." I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the possum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflowers? The old black oak growing older every year? I know I can walk through the world, along the shore or under the trees, with my mind filled with things of little importance, in full self-attendance. A condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze, maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep, maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet, it began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why, and yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wren singing, what could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air.
Good morning. My name is Steve Abbott, and welcome to From Homer to Hip Hop. The poet Marvin Bell has said, "What people say there are no words for, that's what poetry is for." It seems to be a good place to start any attempt to chart poetry's history and its value in human life. Most of us are familiar with poetry's origins in story, rhythm, and song, regardless of what continent cultures lived on, what oral cultures relied on storytellers to maintain and pass history, as well as to sustain cultures and tradition. Over millennia, these storytellers went by many names, among them bard, troubadour, jongleur, trouveur, menzinger, chaskatelek, shanachie, pinkard, griot. They were central to oral cultures, and they used a range of rhythms, sounds, and repeated phrases to end in memorization. These techniques were sustained as various cultures developed written languages. Most of us are familiar with the epics of ancient cultures, from Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey to the Epic of Gilgamesh from the Sumerians, France's Song of Roland, Spain's El Cid. These were all poems of national identity. And long before the nation state, they were common tales of heroism and survival of a people. These histories were supplemented by praise for God or the gods and for professions of love. Biblical psalms offer examples of both. Supplemented by musical instruments, these stories became songs, and we often hear poetry referred to as song. As written languages developed, the Greek term poem, literally meaning a thing made, came to represent writings that address spiritual and philosophical concepts, responses to nature, social commentary, familial relationships, and of course, love. The rhythms and sound patterns, including rhyme, that underpinned oral transmission of culture became ingrained in this literary form. And for centuries, these became the standard forms for poems. European sonnets and villanelles, the Malaysian pantoum, Japanese haiku, the Arab ghazal, Shakespeare's blank verse became an influential unrhymed form. The 19th and 20th centuries saw the emergence of open form, or free verse, that didn't depend on meter or rhyme to convey poetry's essence and ventured further into social commentary without losing poetry's essential themes. The American poet William Carlos Williams, with his dictum, "No ideas, but in things," and the use of everyday speech and speech patterns, pushed poetry to go beyond abstractions and emotional constructs, to use the objects of the world as a way to represent, capture, and evoke the feelings of part of what it was to be human in the modern world. And as the 20th century progressed, many poets increasingly went beyond poetry's focus on things of beauty, the ethereal, and the pastoral, to venture into using poetry to explore and confront less pleasant aspects of life. And from this, various schools of poetry emerged to take on these topics. The beat poets of the 1950s, with their rejection of post-World War II bourgeois culture, the confessional poets of the 1960s, whose work some found embarrassingly revealing and direct, were supplanted eventually by spoken word, which, in forms such as rap and hip-hop, uses complex oral dexterity to explore personal and group identity, social and political issues, and forms of humorous boasting derived from African culture. All of these, whether they addressed human responses to the supernatural, to nature, to love, or the cosmos, or conflict, or the great mystery of death, are efforts to, as Marvin Bell said, say what there are no words for, to use images to go beyond language and its literal and even figurative meaning to capture feelings by evoking associations that take us beyond language. I'd like to read a poem of my own to examine this idea. It's in a form known as an ekphrastic poem, which is one that responds in some form to a work of art. This one attempted to capture the range of feelings and associations I experienced looking at a photograph by a Massachusetts photographer named Don McDermott. And I think the image is going to be up here momentarily. No? What? Voila. This poem is entitled Rear View. The photograph was entitled Almost. Without looking back, you see the riverbank holds sycamores and a sky their bone fingers trace. They are walking the path we've shared with springs and falls, random artifacts collected, burrs in a dog's fur. Every curio and snapshot, now in sharper focus, shouts revisionist history that hurls you a story badly translated. What you see is not departure, but movement, not rejection, but embrace of a larger space you cannot accept, where what murmurs empty is undefined by ancient mounds disguised as clusters of trees. They line a field open to what some call heaven. Its silence holds a record of funeral pyres and ritual beginnings. Know that, even in retrospect, the dark block of my back is not shield, but companion, a coat woven from gateway and light in which I am contained, then released. You may believe I'm moving away, that somehow I've vanished. But even if you can't see me, I'm closer than I appear. So whether it's telling a personal story or trying to capture a feeling or complex of emotions or connecting with something beyond our literal and factual understanding or simply reaching towards some form of expression, this service will examine how poetry is a basic life support system.
By Rebecca Baggett, called Testimony for My Daughters. I want to tell you that the world is still beautiful. I tell you that despite children raped on city streets, shot down in schoolrooms, despite slow poisons seeping from old and hidden sins, into our air, soil, water. Despite the thinning film that encloses our aching world, despite my own terror and despair, I want you to know that spring is no small thing, that the tender grasses curling like baby's fine hairs around your fingers are a recurring miracle. I want to tell you that the river rocks shine like God, that the crisp voices of the orange and gold October leaves are laughing at death. I want to remind you to look beneath the grass, to note the fragile hieroglyphs of ant, snail, beetle. I want you to understand that you are no more and no less necessary than the brown recluse, the ruby-throated hummingbird, the humpback whale, the profligate mimosa. I want to say, like Neruda, that I am waiting for a great and common tenderness, that I still believe we are capable of attention, that anyone who notices the world must want to save it. And now I am going to read a poem written by Pat Snyder, who is a member but can't be here today. This is called The Gong. It's inspired by the Marie Selby Botanical Gardens in Sarasota, Florida. Worn wooden mallet strikes brass, startles life into being. Round and sweet, oh, full of itself for the moment, then fades ever so thinly into the air, into the trees that mallets are made of.
Hello, I'm Tom Barlow. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a poet, as my wife has written on this for me. I'm going to read a poem entitled From Blossoms by Lee Young Lee. From blossoms come this brown paper bag of peaches we bought from the boy at the bend in the road where we turned toward signs painted peaches. From laden boughs, from hands, from sweet fellowship in the bins comes nectar at the roadside. Succulent peaches we devoured, dusty skin and all, comes the familiar dust of summer, dust we eat. Oh, to take what we love inside, to carry within us an orchard, to eat not only the skin but the shade, not only the sugar but the days, to hold the fruit in our hands, adore it, then bite into the round jubilance of peach. There are days we live as if death were nowhere in the background, from joy to joy to joy, from wing to wing, from blossom to impossible blossom, to sweet, impossible blossom.
I'm Bob Papps. My personal pronouns are he, him. I had the pleasure of knowing Bill Hurley and attended one of his book study groups. I had hoped that the gentle passing of time would give me an opportunity to get to know him better. That turned out not to be the case. This poem is by Bill Hurley. Carpe diem. I took my telescope to the Arizona desert. While peering into galaxies, I reflected upon the constellations of my soul. That was on Tuesday. When I saw my future wife walk into Mozart's cafe, I paid the pianist to play Turkish rondo. We've been dancing ever since. That was on Sunday. I flew a glider over the White Mountains on Friday, pitched a tent in the Florida Keys, and saw the Southern Cross for the first time. That was Sunday. I stood in the blue aura of a Marc Chagall stained glass window on a Chicago Sunday morning and pondered Martin's statue among the Washington cherry blossoms on Sunday. I stood on top of a volcano, the glow of lava and the Milky Way above. That was Monday. I sipped champagne at the Eiffel Tower on Wednesday, walked the labyrinth in Chartres Cathedral on Friday, and stood before Mona Lisa, Venus de Milo, the Winged Mercury, Monet's Water Lilies, and Rodin's Thinker, then made love in the Latin Quarter on the same day, which was Wednesday. Why? Because there's only 7 days in a week, and someday is not one of them.
Thank you, Bob. I think we all miss Bill Hurley. This is, I don't believe, made it onto the program, or did it? Okay. This is one of my own poems, and it's an ekphrastic poem that I wrote after seeing a cast of the sculpture by Auguste Rodin, and it's called Torso of the Walking Man. Toned muscles of the right leg end above the knee. He is male, that much is true. Stomach hard and flat, shoulders broad. This one was strong. No stab wounds or bullet holes marred his polished physique. Broken man, surprised perhaps by a landmine, limbs ripped, head torn from shoulders, a violence of blood, shredded flesh where legs, arms, head belong. Abandoned body parts lie in garbage heaps, bake in white heat, dust, stench of war. Flies buzz around stumps. I want to see the hands, knobby toes, ridge of brow, curl of hair, an ear, bronze distance between the eyes. Empty left leg, a space where birds might fly. Like a large tree missing its main branch, this man will torque out of balance. This torso is not of a walking man.
I'm going to read a poem by Stephen Spender titled The Truly Great. I think continually of those who were truly great, who from the womb remembered the soul's history through corridors of light, where the hours are suns, endless and singing, whose lovely ambition was that their lips, still touched with fire, should tell of the Spirit, clothed from head to foot in song, and who hoarded from the spring branches the desires falling across their bodies like blossoms. What is precious is never to forget the essential delight of the blood, drawn from ageless springs, breaking through rocks in worlds before our earth, never to deny its pleasure in the morning simple light, nor its grave evening demand for love, never to allow gradually the traffic to smother with noise and fog the flowering of the Spirit. Near the snow, near the sun, in the highest fields, see how these names are fêted by the waving grass and by the streamers of white cloud and whispers of wind in the listening sky. The names of those who in their lives fought for life, who wore at their hearts the fire's center. Born of the sun, they traveled a short while toward the sun and left the vivid air signed with their honor.
This is a poem I wrote called Nobody Home. The old house shifts its weight, heaves a sigh. Family gathers, swaying in parallel, boats anchored too close in a storm. Whose house is it now? It is empty and full. We memorize the view from the picture window, the meadow, the brook, our sledding hill. Mom's music perches on the old spinet in lopsided stacks, bindings cracked, silverfish quietly digest pages. I reach down the side of my father's chair, under the cushion, upholstery waxed from years of skin contact, find a handful of change from his pocket. I put on Mom's Timex. I will not miss my flight.
This is a poem of my own. It's called How We Sing. When we were born, our mothers heard it. Like an old story, the lyric is repeated, the line folding back on itself, elusive as an echo. Every time we love, and even as a sad curtain darkens the final frame of the window, it is there, the sweet sigh of something entering or leaving us. The long journey of the heart, even the one that never moves, forms a moonlight crescent, the line's intangible gap shrinking or growing. Beneath it, we know wherever we're going home. There's a place where we wish, without believing, this piece of sky would reflect a part of us. How we sing when someone touches that part. You touch me the way an autumn leaf sets the sky afire.
I'm going to read one of my poems. It's entitled A Love Poem. I love that we program computers to tell us jokes. I love how parades are still more important than Amazon deliveries. I love the way skateboarders practice their nonchalance. And I love how Ukrainians can knit little hats for their cats while in a bomb shelter. I love that people judge their day a success if they can solve the Wordle. And I love goat yoga and dog yoga and even weed yoga if I can stay awake. I love that even Plato would have had to agree my grandmother's peach pie was perfect. And I love the name pickleball. I love that a front yard meadow and a clothesline no longer mean lazy and cheap. And I love that we can only float in a pool when we stop struggling. I love the way boomers can recite the lyrics to Highway 61 Revisited. And I love that the fellow who built a full-scale biblical ark filed a claim with his insurance company for water damage. I love the way my wife and I each pretend the other needs to have the television turned up so loud. And I love that she still applauds every time I read a poem at an open mic that neglects to mention that I love her.
In July and August, our Share the Plate recipient is Sedona Grace. Sedona Grace keeps pets with their families by providing pet food to local food pantries so everyone in a family, included our four-legged friends, can have food on the table and in their bowls. You can also contribute by bringing cat or dog food to the Justice Action Ministry table on Sunday mornings this month. We hope you can use our QR code on the order of service, text the number on the screen, or go to our website, firstucolumbus.org, and click the Donate tab to share as you feel called. Your gifts help a better church and a better world. Thank you. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
Amen. Before I do our caring meditation this morning, I want to offer you a time of silence. So I invite you to just feel what it feels like to let your body sit in your chair, or to pray, or to just simply follow your breath. For our caring meditation this morning, instead of offering a poem, as I usually do, I want to share some wisdom from UCLA psychiatrist Dr. Robert Carroll, who uses poetry as a vehicle to take us to sacred places. He has found that encouraging individuals who are feeling life's stresses to write poetry or write in journals. And this can have a powerful healing effect of offering relief with a deeply emotional expression of words. Dr. Carroll headed a project that brought together patients with brain cancer and poets to help patients find words to express their experiences. One of these stories, titled Amazing Change, was written in poetic form by a woman who was dealing with a diagnosis of brain cancer. And she wrote this story in the third person. People can go through amazing changes when they find that they have limited time. A woman who had brain cancer wanted to go to Rwanda to see the gorillas. She and her husband and their guides trekked through the jungle up into the mountains. But the woman was having trouble. She struggled and struggled. The guides tried to convince her to go back, but she wouldn't. Eventually, everyone was rooting for her. But there comes a point where she could not go on. So she lay down in the grass, and when she did, the gorillas came out of the jungle to her. There was something very transformative in this construction of words. What words were powerful for you? Was it the gorillas coming out to meet the woman? Did that feel healing to you? Was it the woman laying on the grass, if in surrender? Perhaps it is just that deepest sense of knowing in these words. What would your poem be if you wrote one in response to stressful events? I now invite Sylvia Howe, our pastoral listener, to come forward. After I read the joys and sorrows that you've submitted over the past week, Sylvia will read those submitted during the service. So please remember that any submission between 4 p.m. on Saturday and the start of this service will be announced next week. So we have 4 cards this morning. Congratulations to Julia and Nathan M. They welcomed their new baby, Rowan, on July 26th. Mom and baby are doing well and settling into new routines at home. We welcome our new church office administrator, Becca M. She is an 18-year member of the North UU congregation. We send congratulations and wishes for speedy recovery to Linda C. for her lower female reconstruction surgery on August 15th at OSU. And we send healing thoughts to Stu R., who had coronary bypass surgery on 7/26 and returned home on 7/29 from OSU hospitals. He is doing well and would welcome cards. And we have 4 announcements this morning. Today, the lovely chancel and gallery flowers were generously donated by Barb F. The flowers come from her remarkable pollinator garden, and we thank you, Barb, for that. Tom P. expresses joy at Gateway Theater's showing of the documentary Lakota Nation versus United States. That begins next week. This movie chronicles the fight to reclaim control of the Black Hills by the Lakota Native Americans. And Raina B. congratulates Carson T. on a new job offer. And Kristen H. wishes to welcome the first child of Kelly and Chris H., Micah Charles. We encourage you to visit the caring card table in Beach Hall following this service to sign caring cards for folks, whether you know them or not. This long-time tradition of signing cards in person is an important outreach to members and friends. And now Sylvia.
Good morning. I am Sylvia Howe, a retired Unitarian Universalist minister and a member of this congregation. We have 2 caring notes this morning. The first from Diana S. Elsie S. and Mike S., her sister and brother-in-law. Elsie's brother and nephew perished in a house fire on June 23rd. Please keep Mike and Elsie and family in your kind thoughts. And from Ricky W. I will be finishing cardiac rehab this week. Congratulations, Ricky.
And for all of those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts, whether expressed or not, may they be held with care. And now I invite you to stand, if willing and able, to sing 196, The Singer of Life. This is a Texcoco Nahuatl poem set to a Native American melody.
read our benediction, I just want to acknowledge the mark of the end of our summer services led by our amazing lay leaders. And I wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who led a service this summer, who helped put together a service this summer. The summer was amazing, so thank you all very, very much. In particular, I want to thank Sue Farnlacher, Sue was the amazing coordinator of all of our summer services and went above and beyond, and we are so, so grateful. And as we shared at the beginning of this service, our new minister, our developmental minister, Reverend Teresa Cooley, is here. She has finished her first week with us and will be leading the service next Sunday. And I know she would be thrilled to get to meet you all after the service, so she will be sticking around. Our benediction is from Tupac. Out of anger comes controversy. Out of controversy comes conversation. Out of conversation comes action. If you would now rise in body or in spirit and join hands as you are comfortable, we will extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. Extinguished.
Sorry.